Thank you. The words of Agur, the son of Yake, the prophecy. The man says to Itiel and Ukal, listen to this. I am more boorish than anyone. I lack human discernment. I have not learned enough wisdom to know the Holy One. Let me read that again. I am more boorish than anyone. I lack human discernment. I have not learned enough wisdom to know the Holy One. Would you be surprised to find out that those verses describe a lot of believers, particularly in the United States? I am more boorish than anyone. I lack human discernment. I have not learned enough wisdom to know the Holy One. Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Who has cupped the wind in the palms of his hands? Who has wrapped up the waters in his cloak? Who established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name? Surely you know. Every word of God is pure. He shields those taking refuge in him. Don't add anything to his words, or he will rebuke you, and you be found a liar. Let me read that again. Every word of Yah is pure. He shields those taking refuge in him. Don't add anything to his words, or he will rebuke you, and you be found a liar. Yah, I have asked two things of you. Don't deny them to me as long as I live. Keep falsehood and futility far from me. Good to see y'all. You doing better, Mary? Taking good care of her, John. Amen. Keep falsehood and futility far from me. That ought to be our prayer. Because, you know, you've heard me say numerous times, it's so many talking heads. You can stream them. You can record them and play them later. You can go on YouTube and play them over and over and over and over. You know, technology has gotten so that any of us, regardless of what mode of faith you worship in, you can find material dealing with that. The type of news that you are accustomed to. They got a news station that will give you can listen to the news and everything is yes, amen, because they're of the same mindset. It doesn't matter. Things have become so that we can tailor make what we hear, who we listen to. And, you know, it's gotten so, it's so prevalent now. Those that are caught up in numbers, because some people think, well, you know, this many people can't be wrong. And so if a thought is agreed to and shared by a whole lot of people, hey, that's got to be God. Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. Keep falsehood and futility far from me. Keep falsehood and futility far from me. See, you control what's played in your house. You control what's played in your automobile. You know? And ladies, gentlemen, the choices that we make are so vitally important because many of us make long-term life decisions off of the information that we receive through our television, through our radio, through our music. And a lot of us have made what we thought was a quality decision only to find out that the information we were given was not quite accurate. And I don't know about you, but I know that makes me fighting mad. But again, I can only really be angry at myself. Why? Because I chose. You know, the fact that the whole congregation was in on it, or all of Christendom at the time was in on it, still, I chose that. I took that information. This has got to be from God, not G-O-D, G-A-W-D. Folks, in all our getting, and we do desire understanding, and I'm hoping that we will take Deacon Green up on his challenge to find out what that is that we should be doing that we're not doing. I mean, I would take that to heart. I would take that to heart because you know, have you noticed, those of you that do a lot of streaming and watch a lot of programming, have you noticed that everybody is kind of turning on everybody? Particularly, and now I'm gonna confess to you, I wasn't watching a whole lot of what you call Christian television. And again, I'm not saying that to discourage. If you enjoy that and you get something out of it, go for it. But what has begun to pique my interest is because most of us come out of traditional settings, and we thought we were getting something a little more spiritual. And we used to, you know, in our groups would say, yeah, you know, you need to come on out of them cold, dead churches. Remember that kind of talk? Well, now some of them cold dead churches are coming after some of these folks and saying, I too have studied the Bible, and you got your own interpretation. And a lot of stuff that you have stood on and greatly increased your coffers for your ministry, that is not accurate. And they are now taking to task a lot of people that we have gotten on planes, trains, buses, and everything, and packed places to hear some of this stuff. And I think that's quite interesting. So now I've started, I said, well, now I'm wondering if they're not going to take this line down. And a lot of people are having to answer some questions because some of these traditional boys are starting to say, well, what is the basis of what you've been teaching? They're bringing up questions about tithing. They're bringing up questions about tithing. They're bringing up questions about prophecy. They're bringing up a whole lot of questions. And you know what? I can't wait to hear how some of these people are going to answer. So now I'm going to tune in to see, or are they going to just ignore that? Now remember now, the people that started this new creation reality stuff, they kicked the traditional folks a long time, made fun of them. That's why they got out. And of course, their ministries grew as a result. It's getting real interesting. And even the people that they call them content creators. Content creators are going after one another. I listen to a lot of the finance guys, and now they're going after each other. Well, we know the politicians going to go after each other. But I shared with you before what we have to do as everyday people, and this is not only for state and federal government. I heard somebody say we need to pray for the city of Petersburg. Well, I will remind you, yes, we should, but I also will remind you that this very fellowship has a case in the Virginia Supreme Court against the city of Petersburg. I'm not saying don't pray for them, but pray for us too, that Yah's will be done. See, folks, as everyday people, which most of us are, we've got to hold all parties responsible. Not just the party that is residing in the White House. See, we fall for the okie doke every 4 years, and we're getting ready to have something when in November. And what is happening, and I'm not making this political, but I just want you to watch this time so that we don't fall for it again. See, what happens is the party that doesn't get its way, they do this when it's time to govern. And I'm only bringing up Barack Obama, who I love him. The only reason I'm bringing him up is because he said something very key when he first started in office. And I'm just, and if somebody else had said it, if Donald Trump had said it, I would still say that was good, but he didn't say that. He said a lot of other things. But, again, I'm not trying to make this political. But Obama said the election is over. And he was talking to all of Congress, all of the House of Representatives. He said, now it's time to govern. And see, what we've got to remember as everyday people, when all the elections are over, regardless of who wins, because really, the winner got a mess on their hands. But we can't let them off the hook. We gotta, all of them are to be held accountable. The winners and the losers. Because they make up government. See, don't allow the losing party to do this. We didn't win, so I'm not going to do anything to help. See, because we still lose. The everyday person still loses. If government does nothing, we suffer. They got a beautiful health care. They get very nice salaries, all of them. And again, I'm not making this political, and it's not. I'm saying as everyday people, hold all of them responsible, regardless of who's in the White House. Because see, really, as far as this country was concerned, it used to be, regardless of who wins, we got to support that person, because if we don't, we still lose. But things have gotten so divided. I mean, even wearing the mask. Let me say this. Not everybody that don't wear a mask hate us. Okay? You'd be surprised. Some people that's wearing a mask hate us. Don't let people change the narrative. When it's time to vote, if you're going to vote, vote. But that passage that I read, that ought to be on all of our prayers, because that's what a lot of falsehood and futility, the airwaves are full of it. And I don't care if you're watching what you call Christian television or a Hollywood movie. A lot of falsehood and futility is in it. And what that does, people, it keeps us making poor decisions. It affects our choices. How? Because we believe what we're hearing. We believe what we're seeing. And we're saying, oh, that's solid. I've been watching blankety blank for 30 years. We've given people a pass. A phrase that I have adopted, and again, I'm not suggesting this to you, but I now have adopted, upon further review. I stated, I think last week, again, this is not something you have to do. I have stopped giving people the benefit of the doubt. I find in my life that can be perilously dangerous, and it can cost me my life. Because if you're in an environment where a lot of false information is being given, and I'm eating it up like it's truth, I'm doing the adversary's work for them. Are you saying, Barry, you don't trust him? No. There are still people I trust, but upon further review, I need to review my relationships, all of them. I would advise you, only advise you, do the same. See, we need a real dose of truth. It's too much other stuff mixed in with just a little bit of truth. We've stood on people's interpretation of the scriptures and not the scriptures. That's dangerous. That is dangerous. That's why we got to read for ourselves. I appreciate the work that people put in, but now I realize at the end of the day, you better get in there for yourself and make sure you understand it. I'm telling you, and people have built great ministries, but numbers-wise, off of their interpretation of the scriptures. Y'all, I have asked two things of you. Don't deny them to me as long as I live. Keep falsehood and futility far from me. And then he says here, which is interesting, he says, and give me neither poverty nor wealth. I was like, wow. Now, y'all know I was all in for keep falsehood and futility far from me. I'm all in for that. But I kind of, when I read the other, I was like, well, wait a minute, hold it. He said, and give me neither poverty nor wealth. And you all know that I have said a lot of, I guess, translators, I guess that's the proper term. But they seem to, it just seems to be an underlying current throughout a lot of the scriptures, not so much in what we call the Old Testament, but a whole lot in what we call, of course, we're Torah scholars, the Brit Hadashah. But it's almost like they're trying to say, if you got a little money, you evil. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, and I said, yeah, there are some evil, wealthy people, but there are some good, wealthy people too. And something we don't think about, let me tell you something. There are some evil, poor people too. And they're not only poor financially, they're poor in their mind, in their outlook in life. In their decision making. Now, in reading and looking over the 613 laws or instructions, what is it, 248 do's and the rest don'ts. Work on the do's. Stay away from the don'ts. That'll help us. That'll help us in our decision making. I just answered that question that Deacon Green ass. Oh, he says, give me neither poverty nor wealth. Now, I think he was hedging his bet a little bit. Because I came up in one of those churches down there in, when I was living down there in Texas. And that's, I was like, hey, I'm down here. Hey, who should I go? And, Mom and Pop said, hey, well, go to here. And I went there. And it was okay. Because I was all into that then. And at that time, a lot of believers, oh, Lord, would you just bless me with a slice of bread so I can have today's substance? And, and we thought that, oh, they're so spiritual. And the pastor then at that time, he said, hey, man, hey, that's all right, asking for your daily substance. But he said, hey, man, when we got started in this thing, we had to divide a loaf, a slice of bread. Now we can get the bakery. And of course, the place would just erupt because we were into the prosperity thing. And I'm not taking shots at anybody. We, when I said we, I ain't saying that they. I'm not a they, and I'm not a you. You got to do this. No, we got to do some things. Folks, we have gotten into a whole lot of stuff, and some of it was error. Now, I don't know how much honesty you want, but in order for me to get help, I'm going to do what my mother instructed me, and she instructed some of you too. She said, you want help? Get real so you can get help. Amen. And in my review of what I had been studying, I started looking at stuff, and upon further review, I was like, you did that. And when I say you that time, I was talking about me. You was in that. Anybody ever stood, and don't raise your hand, just think to yourself. Anybody ever stood in a $1,000 line to get a word or a prophecy? Don't raise your hand. Just look straight, look up or something. Fly halfway across the country. Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. Who said freely you give, freely receive? What about the people that didn't have $1,000? Y'all remember the thing about, and again, don't raise your hand. You ever been in a service? Well, I just feel the Lord moving. Who can stand with me and give off $500? All of that kind of stuff. I was in on all that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about me. I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. And see, when I review a lot of that stuff, I'm like, man, I used to, oh, man. And I'm purposely staying away from some because some things are very hurtful that we got into, that we believe because people told us, thus saith the Lord. And we made some decisions because we really believed it was from God and it was from out of their own intellect, their own mind, their own heart. And I told you all before, I said there are some people, they will use anything or anybody to have their way, and that includes the Most High. And that's a dangerous thing. Going back to the place that I used to go to, and I mean, I was in there full force. I got in there. I was a usher, and they made me captain, and I had 35 men under me. 35 men. Couldn't tell me nothing. Had a headset on, man, you boy. And I used to have this section. It was like almost like an amphitheater. And I had I had the middle section. And that was the section that mostly they would be on TV. So occasionally somebody said, I saw you on TV. I got to quit. I done went over. We're going to continue this a little later because I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going somewhere with this. Folks, we gotta be honest with ourselves, about ourselves. I'm not asking anybody